Good morning. My name is Reverend Teri Liddle, and yes, all we need is love. So there are many different kinds of love, and the kind of love that I want to talk about today is agape love, and that is a term referring to unconditional love, the highest form of love, charity, and the love of God for creation, and our love for God. This word is not to be confused with brotherly love or self-love. Those are important too, but that's not what this talk is about. This is a type of universal, unconditional love that transcends and persists regardless of circumstances and conditions. It goes beyond just the emotions to the extent of seeking what is best for all beings. A couple of quotes to get us started. Love is a way of being, letting the God in you shine through so that others can catch the light and awaken to the glory of God here and now. And that's from Mary Morrissey and from Ernest Holmes. And this is from the Holmes Reader on Practical Wisdom. Love is a language which is universal, interpreted through every soul and understood by all. Love will find the solution to every problem, will answer every question, and will ultimately vanish every foe. Love begets tolerance. Tolerance begets understanding. An understanding which is able to put itself in the other person's place. I believe that the deepest human and spiritual need is to feel loved and connected. Love is actually a spiritual practice. If we can remember to step out in faith, and even during difficult times, to open our hearts and reach out to others, we will once again feel that ultimate connection, the connection to the divine. So working in the hospital has given me quite a new perspective, but I don't really think it's new. I think it's more about remembering that which really is. So anytime I have any human interaction whatsoever, I seek that connection. I seek that connectedness with others, not only humans, but of course animals, and with our beautiful Mother Earth, with our planet. And as I've spoken so many times from the podium, being out in nature and feeling connected to the trees, to the rocks, to the grass, just to every living thing. So back to being at the hospital. So when there's patients who are awake, that's pretty easy. That's kind of what we do all the time. But what I got to experience at the hospital, working in the ICU, was a lot of people that were unconscious. And what was absolutely a fabulous remembering was also being able to connect with so many of those people, to be able to walk to their bedside and hold space, to know the truth of their being. And I believe that that is what this agape love is all about. These are strangers. I don't know these people. But what I want is the wholeness, the oneness, that connectedness with these other people. And sometimes I did not feel a connection. But other times, even though they were unconscious, it was the most beautiful, words can't describe the feeling of connectedness with people. And I'll tell you what, brothers and sisters, if I didn't believe in a higher self, our higher selves being able to connect with other people, this experience would have sealed the deal for me, because I could tell that my willingness to walk into that room and to be open to these folks, that our higher selves were connecting at a level that is only God's love. Love is a language which is universal. We already have it. Have you ever just watched kids play together? I have this beautiful memory of my son, my second son, Michael, at a playground, and he was just a wee one, probably 2, and watching him play with other children. And I remember him coming and getting his sippy cup and then walking over to a stranger, another little kid, and offering that cup. But this is where, the teaching, not our teaching, this is where a teaching comes in, the humanness of us, where the parent, no, And I can understand that. I can understand it. But my point is that universal love of one person for another, that is what we are born with. It is eternal. It is who and what we truly, truly are. Research has also shown time and time again, and for many, many decades, that little children are taught differences. It doesn't mean that little children don't see, oh, you have a different skin color. Oh, your hair is different than mine. That's not what I'm saying. But what is taught is that differences matter. That is the thing that is taught to children. And that's a sad thing, because imagine a world where that expectation was not put upon children, that, oh yeah, they're different and we need to stay away from people like that. Or, yes, they're different, that we need to be leery, we need to be afraid, or whatever it is. Imagine a world where none of that mattered. Imagine a world where none of that happens. That's agape love. That's what I mean when I say all we need is love. Love will find the solution to every problem. Love can answer every question. Love can ultimately banish every foe. If allowed, love can overcome both hate and fear. However, love does not overcome hate and fear through controversy, argument, or force, but by a subtle power of transformation within ourselves. It is an invisible essence, but it's apparent in its act. As light overcomes darkness, and just as heat permeates a cold space, so imagine a wood-burning stove in a cabin. You walk in, it's freezing cold, you light the stove, it starts to heat, the heat overcomes it. Love can do that exact same thing. Love begets tolerance. When we have thoughts that are negative, we set off a chain reaction in which our physical bodies usually turn into anger, and they are always based in fear. This can actually cause us physical illness. These degenerative thoughts can be turned into love, and the very power that has been destroying can be made to build up our entire selves, by thus bringing healing and love to the whole. So what Jesus taught, and what I believe that we all need to learn, is that we cannot have an attitude of dislike or hate or viciousness toward other people without robbing ourselves and hurting the whole. The healing power and the comforting presence of the divine assurance that the universe itself rests on the shoulders of love. So when we talk about oneness and wholeness, so take science of mind classes, but as a brief summary, what I believe in Teri's theology, Reverend Teri Liddle's theology, is that there is this wholeness, that there is just one. There's absolutely nothing that is outside of it. It is all that is. And there cannot be a world where what happens to my brothers and sisters in another part of the world does not somehow affect me, because we are all part of this whole. So if you can imagine a small body of water, let's just go with that, a lake. So imagine the lake is the equivalent of the whole, the oneness. And anytime we put anything negative into that lake, it affects the whole entire lake. It doesn't just affect the cove over there of those people. It affects the whole entire lake. Same with the wholeness, same with the oneness. So my part is an understanding that love is the highest principle of life, and it has to be this way because it is life acting upon itself in unity with itself. It can never act any other way. We as human beings tend to act opposite of our true nature, like I talked about with the children, with the kiddos. We build up liabilities, stifling the healing current of love, which is the healing power in the world. Again, like I said, think of the kiddos. Why do we do this? Because we're afraid that it is not practical to bring this type of agape love, to love one another. We won't get our fair share. When we experience our world in duality versus unity, wholeness, oneness, it causes us to act in very selfish ways. Instead of looking at the whole, we look at our tiny selves and seemingly separate ourselves from the life principle, which is love. This is taken from A New Design for Living. In the mind of man, we find that the only created thing which can consciously deprive itself of accepting God's love, and when this is done, the results are disastrous. All we have to do is take a look at our beautiful planet and the destruction the mind of man has created. So it would seems to me, that the fundamental fact that love is the answer, the basic reality of life. This would in turn give rise to a firm conviction that God is love. God, creative intelligence, utilizes us for its expression. And the expression, being us, depends on source, God, spirit, whatever you want to call this being, this entity, for our very own existence. God can never stop creating or loving, neither can the creation, us, cease loving or expressing God without limiting our experience of the source of our own existence. So just think of all the people in the world, and we know many that live in horrible misery. These people may have abundance materially. They may have absolutely everything a person can desire for, yet they are miserable. And then we have other people who, from a material perspective, have nothing. Yet what they have is the loving presence of God. They have this actual experience and this feeling and this knowing of God expressing in them. They are not limited to the source of their existence. They have it abundantly. And these people, we people, can have this beautiful, wonderful experience. When we make ourselves receptive to the idea of love, we become lovable. To the degree that we can embody love, we are love. This is why people who love are loved. Interestingly, in our textbook, The Science of Mind, Holmes teaches us love is the sole impulse for creation, and the only one who does not have love as the greatest incentive of life has never developed their real creative instinct. No one can swing out to the universal without love, for the whole universe is based upon it. This tells me that to create the life in the world that I want to experience, I must come at everything with love, even if it disturbs me, even if the conditions and circumstances are hard and difficult. But by leaning into spirit, all things are possible. So I want to share a story of what I've been doing since September 2019. I've been in a clinical pastoral education class. And to call it a class seems, there's just not words. What it was a life-changing experience. And it was an experience that was one of the hardest things I've ever done, and also one of the most wonderful things I've ever experienced. And I got to live this principle that I'm talking about, the divine creative urge that is inside of each and every one of us. Being at the hospital, I did 1,200 clinical hours along with the classroom hours. And I can tell you, it was very challenging. It was very hard. And the reasons was because I worked with ICU patients mainly, a lot of death, a lot of dying. And to be honest, I was scared. I wanted to run. I want to go to the comfort and go sit on top of the mountain and meditate, But the creative urge, that divine love inside of me was expressing, and it was expressing in my love for others, for the whole. And I got to do this. It was a privilege, and I get to continue to do this. And that's a privilege. This creative urge, that is given in the love and expressed through the law into our circumstance and reality, is a very, very real thing. We are made perfect in the law when we enter into conscious communion with the love. Love is the fulfillment of the law, that it is only through love that the law can fulfill itself in our experience. Because love harmonizes everything. Love flows through everything. You cannot make the most perfect use of the law of your life unless you're motivated by love. Another way of looking at this is the intellect and the heart must go hand in hand. It's not enough to just do loving things. And, it's what's behind it. It's what is behind the act. It's not enough to just do a loving act. There's a difference between what you do and how you feel when you do that Reverend Lucy spoke last week about love in action. And this is what I'm talking about. It's not enough to just do. I could be bombarded with, you should do this, you need to do this. It's the kind thing to do. It's the loving thing to do. And that's fine. But for it to have a real true impact on the whole, to make a real true healing effect on the one, I need to do the inner work. I need to come at each and everything I do from a place of love. I need to be able to understand my wholeness and my completeness and my connectedness to the divine. Love is also forgiveness. Love overlooks the differences that we have and finds a point of reconciliation with others. Love creates tolerance and human understanding, without which we can really just keep on being divided against ourselves. We're only one. And without this love, we can unconsciously, that's a scary word, unconsciously become filled with criticism, condemnation, and false judgment. Think about the last 4 years. Did you experience any of these things? Did you experience criticism and judgment? Let's reflect on how that affects the whole, how that affects the one. Jesus introduced this idea of divine forgivingness based on a belief in a divine love, and told us that when we find the one, we shall find the other. And so what that means is if when I can find that divine forgivingness for other people that do and say and act in ways that I find really objectionable, I will then be able to experience that divine love, that true connectedness, because we are all one. Remember the lake story. I believe that most people really do try to do the very, very best they can. And they try to come from a place of doing what they feel is right. The tricky part of this, the challenge, if you will, is that what I think is right and what other people think is right can be extremely different. There's a place that I love, and some of you are probably have heard of it. It's the San Joaquin River Gorge. And so this is just a perfect example that for many years there's a battle going on over to dam it up and fill it up with water. And the use of this area is for biking and hiking and camping. And we've done sacred circles there. We've done the white stone ceremony there. It's a very, very special place. And my belief is it needs to be left as it is. And just as equally and as strong as my belief that it needs to be left how it is, the people that want to dam it up, they also have that exact same strong belief that that's the right thing to do. That's the tricky part of all of this. So my inner work, my job of this divine love is to come at those people that have differing beliefs, differing ideas, and come from a place of love in the action that I'm going to take. It doesn't mean that we sit back and just pray and do treatment. Those things are very important. And we take the action. When we are able to reach out beyond our indifferences and the coldness of life, reach through all intolerance and unkindness, only then do we meet that divine center, which is at the center of every single being. Knowing that the law of God is the law of love, we are called to respond to the divine calm, which is at the center of everything. And knowing that perfect love casts out all fear. We are strong in confidence because we know that the law of God goes with us and prepares the way before us. All we need is love, and we already are love. Love is a synonym for God, and God is love. The universal outpouring of spirit through law, wisdom, and action. God knows us in love, and we only know God through love. When we love humanity, we are loving God in and through and as each and every single one of us. All we need is love, and we already have love. Amen. Also, and so it is. Namaste.